Good evening, everyone, and welcome to When the Shift Hits the Fan. My name is Mark Jeffrey, and I'm here once again with my beautiful co-host, Linda Lehman. And tonight we're talking about something that, you know what, I'm going to be honest here, I'm not always the best at doing. In some respects I am, but in some respects not so much. And I think it really depends on whether I really want to do something or not so much. And we're talking accountability. And it's a big thing because statistically, if you're accountable, make yourself accountable for things that you do, basically what's going to happen is you're actually going to have more of a chance of achieving things. And I mean, not by a little shot either. It can more than quadruple the rate that you get to where you want to go and the amount or the substantial benefit that you're going to receive from being accountable. And we can talk about this in many, many different forms, right? It can be from, starting your business and the different goals that you have. It can be losing weight or gaining weight if you have to. It can be looking for a new job. It can be looking for a new partner. Spending money, not spending money. I mean, everything in your life. Here's the thing, Linda, and check me on this if you think that this is whacked in my head. If I say to myself, well, you know what, I really got to start saving some money because I want to go on a trip, so yeah, I should start doing that. What do you think my chances of success are?
Pretty close to zero.
But what if I phone up Linda Lehman and I say, look, Linda, you know what, we're taking a trip this winter and, we've got a budget for it, make sure that we're comfortable and we have lots of money to spend there. So this is what my commitment's going to be. On every Monday, I'm going to tell you how much money that I have put in my bank account towards this trip. And if I don't make it, then, I have to buy you dinner every night we're there. What are my chances now?
Well, darn, Mark, your chances are 100%. But I was hoping you'd just buy me dinner every night while I was there.
You could sabotage me.
Oh, no. No, there's a huge difference. In the first example, you were interested in saving money, but with your tone and your choice of words, I already knew that you were going to give yourself an out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were just interested in it, you weren't committed to it. Now you phoned me and you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm committing to save X amount of money for our trip, and I'm going to let you, Linda, know. In other words, I'm not only accountable to myself, but now I'm accountable to somebody else. I'm accountable to you, that every Monday I'm going to tell you how much I've put aside this week for that trip.
Yep. And, and the thing is for me, and I know there's lots of our listeners out there that are like that. So in one regard, that might not have been a good example for me to use because I've always been able to, when I want something, whether it be a car, new pair of shoes, new computer, it doesn't matter what it is, I've always been able to say, okay, I need this, and the opportunities are laid out in front of me. I grab every one of them and I get whatever I want. So saving for things has never been, something that I was really able to do just because I knew that I would just go out and earn enough money to do whatever I wanted to do. But cancer taught me a good lesson because that didn't help me because I couldn't earn. I was put in a position that was totally out of my control where my earning potential was cut down to like a quarter and my expenses went up by a gazillion for what I had to pay for. So the first time in my life, I was kind of biting my nails a little bit, wishing, I wish I would have planned for a rainy day because I've never had any rainy days, and I don't even know what the heck they look like. And I was really started to panic a little bit about whether or not I would be able to meet my commitments to myself to actually live. Pretty bad, hey Linda. I mean, I'm challenging my own life by the stupid way that I've lived my life, thinking I'd always be capable of going out there and getting the money.
Mhm. Yet there's a fine line difference here, though, too, Mark. I mean, and it may just be in the terminology. I think that there's a difference between saving for a rainy day versus planning for your future. And the reason I say that is I have seen many people just socking things away or socking money away, sacrificing living their life because they were saving for a rainy day, and then something happened, very unfortunate, and they did not get to use that rainy day fund because they were no longer here. There's a really good example, actually, in You Were Born Rich, Bob Proctor's book. Mm-hmm. And he talks about a gentleman, and off the top of my head I can't remember the name, but he talks about an elderly gentleman that he befriended when he was very young. And this gentleman would basically pick up junk. And then he would take that junk, like, tin cans and scrap metal and stuff, paper, and he would take it and he would turn it in, and that would give him a little bit of money. I mean, he and his wife lived a very poor life, and his wife passed away ahead of him, but he still, would go out, every day is a struggle, picking up trash and then taking it and getting it, turn it in for money. Well, then the old man passed away, and nobody thought that he had any family, and so I guess the local law enforcement or city went into his home to clean it up so that then they could sell whatever was in there. And Mark, what they found was, and this was probably way back in the 1940s, 1950s, what they found was stashed away amongst all of the stacks and stacks of newspapers in boxes everywhere. They found like $100,000 of cash just stashed away that this guy was just putting back for a rainy day. He didn't put it to any use. He didn't take it to the bank. He didn't actually live a comfortable life because he was so worried that if he did, then he wouldn't have anything left when he really needed it. And so, I kind of weigh both sides. Yes, it's important to make a plan for your future instead of saving for a rainy day. Put the money to use. Let it work for you. Because it not only works for you if it's drawing interest or you're investing in things, it's also actually giving other people a job. It's actually out there working, and it's there for you. But at the same time, you have a plan, and so part of it goes there. Part of your funds go to your everyday living so that you're actually living life instead of just hoping that one day you wouldn't have to tap into your reserves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense, because here we are, we're looking at two extremes of the same thing. And I think a lot of people that live through the dirty 30s, I know my parents were like that, at least my mom was. My dad could blaze through money faster than I can. But, it was like, would not buy things for herself, be saving it for some odd reason. And against, all of us kids saying, no, you need to be comfortable. We've got enough money. We don't need your money. You need your money. You need to spend your money. But it was just an impossible thing to get her to do that. She would save and save. And I think we talked about this before, too, because my sister's identical to that. And, there is that part of all of this of living on the extremes of anything. And it's where all things happen to extremes, from weight loss from being anorexic to being morbidly obese to having no money to having lots of money. And we've seen this too, Linda, with people who, for whatever reason, could be they worked for it, they lucked out. I'm not going to analyze the reasons for things, but we know some people that with the internet marketing world, immediately that they kind of came from nothing. They don't know what money is because they get giddy about, something that we look at and going, well, that's really not a lot of money. Why are you jumping up and down? Why, is that not a normal part of life for you? And if we see extremes like that, and those people generally, when they get out there and they start making a big deal about how much money they're making and living the life of Riley and all of this stuff, and then that tap turns off for whatever reason, they're left going, I don't know what hit me. And, they weren't accountable for their own success. Like, you can't just go out there, and no matter what it is, you can't just go out there and think that the taps are never going to shut off, because you were just like I was. I was like that. I had no recollection in my life that whatever would happen. I mean, I had health insurance and if I got sick, but I didn't realize how little that paycheck was going to be. I just thought, oh, I'm insured. They'll give me my millions of dollars every year. No.
No, exactly. But there's a big difference too in mindsets. If you're a type of person who is, the example you gave, coming from nothing, maybe you've not ever had anything, and you're always worried. There's always going to be an end to the money. There's going to be a lack, and then suddenly you get a lot of money. Whether it's winning a lottery, and we've talked about lottery winners and how the majority of them are prepared for what they win, and within about 5 years, they're back to where they were before or even worse. And it's because they weren't prepared in their thought processes. They were still thinking in that poverty mindset, that lack and limitation. I'm always going to have to scrimp and scrape, and the belief that there's not ever going to be enough money. And so then when they get it, one of the first things that they do, and this is usually not really conscious acts, but they're sabotaging themselves because they've just cranked that thermostat to outside of the comfort zone, and the very first thing that their subconscious mind is trying to do is get things back to normal, their normal, which is inside that comfort zone. So they're going to start doing things. It's like a guy that I know won a settlement from the oil spill that was in 2010 in the Gulf. So what was the first thing he did? I mean, he lived paycheck to paycheck and usually paid bills a month behind all the time. So what was the first thing he did? He went out and bought 2 cars, and all that money was gone. And it's because of the mindset he had. He, for whatever reason, maybe he didn't feel like he deserved it or whatever. He was not prepared for a higher level of thinking into like a prosperity mindset, thinking, okay, now I've earned this, I know I can earn more, and taking that, investing in his education or whatever he needed to step up his game so he could continue to maybe even earn that amount and more and more and more. It is a process, Mark, and that's why you and I work with so many people, is to help shift that mindset from, say, a poverty or a lack mindset to a prosperity or a success mindset. It's not just as simple as snapping your fingers or flipping a switch. There are some thought processes that go along with it that we also need to pay attention to and we need to change.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's interesting, too, as people go through that process, you can see them making complete fools out of themselves and then kind of settling back and going, Okay. And that's usually when, people that do care about them may make some comments about, you look like a complete idiot. Um, because other people will care too. And you know what? Talking about accountability though, when you make yourself, like if I were to say to Linda, this is what I'm going to do every Monday, and if I don't phone you by 10:15 on Monday morning, you need to make sure that I'm accountable. Like there's two players in this, right? What if she leaves me off the hook and doesn't make the call, right? I'm engaging her as much as I am being engaged, and asking her to make me beholding to my objective as much as, like, for instance, when you have a mortgage with a bank, right, you go and you make that payment. If you don't make that payment, you know that there's going to be repercussions. You're going to get your house repossessed, or, there's going to be fines on it. I mean, in all things in our lives, there's an accountability, but we never do it for ourselves unless most of the time somebody inflicts it on us, like the mortgage or the doctor saying you have to be in here every Monday and weigh yourself because you're obese or whatever it is. We have a hard time being accountable and making those steps for ourselves. Linda, why is that? Like, if we really want something, why do we as human beings have such a hard time making ourselves accountable for things that we want? Is it because we don't really want it that bad, or is it just something that we need to shift?
You know what? I think it's a little bit of both, Mark. It's a matter of, are we willing? When we're talking about, do we want it bad enough? Are we willing to do what it's going to take to get whatever it is that we want to get? Are we willing to, and I don't want to say sacrifice, but sacrifice is really giving up something of a lesser value for something of a greater value. And that might be a thought process, or it might be giving up the 10 hours of TV time that you sit in front of the TV every day. Maybe it's sacrificing that 10 hours of TV time for actual work or study in your own business, or learning a new skill so that you can get that better job. Are you willing to do what it takes? Because if you're not willing to do what it takes, if what you want isn't big enough for you, you're going to give up at the first obstacle, the very first one. Especially if you're only being accountable to yourself. Because I have to tell you, Mark, we can justify anything that we want to justify, and we can still make ourselves look good to ourselves. So that's where an accountability partner comes in, because if like you said, if I tell you that I'm sitting here looking, and I've just pulled it out in front of me, I'm sitting here looking at a sheet that my youngest daughter sent to me because I have shown interest. I have not made a commitment yet. I'm trying to decide if this is something I really, really want for myself or not. But in October, she and a couple of her friends are going to come hang out at our house because they're going to run in a half marathon that's in a town very close to us. And she asked if I wanted to do it too. So I'm not here on the radio just yet telling everybody I'm going to run a half marathon in October. I'm looking at the workout sheet, and now I'm trying to decide if I am willing to do what it's going to take to get myself into appropriate shape in order to run this half marathon. But it's the same thing. I could be just accountable to myself, and Mark, I can guarantee you, because I may have been doing a lot of personal growth for a lot of years, but I can guarantee you that if this is a commitment that I'm going to make, I'm going to tell you about it, and I'm also going to tell my daughter about it, and I'm going to have both of you hold me accountable, because that's what it's going to take.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's really, because you're right. There is this part of us that we really want something, but yeah, And I know that it's not just in the belief. It's not. It's that sometimes things that we do are hard, right? They're just hard. Like running. I mean, it's not something I could do. I mean, I physically couldn't do it because of my knees. I blew out my knee when I was younger, and it was reconstructed, and I thank God every day that I had a doctor that put everything back together. But running is not something. Walking very fast, maybe. Running, not going to happen because I would put my leg in jeopardy. It just won't hold up to that. And, I'm just not one of those people that wants to cut my leg off and have a prosthetic. I know they're great now, but it's not something I want and not something I would wish upon myself because I know me and how I would feel about that. So that's just not something. But if there's something that you really want, you can still really screw yourself up by the little gremlins that sneak in and say that you're not good enough or you've never done this before. What makes you think that this is possible for you? The best of people, and you're right, Linda, with us with many, many years of personal development and emotional intelligence training, having the best mentors, you still come across something that's going to harden your heart and make it difficult to do. And that's when you need tools, and that's when you have to have people. Like Linda, I think you can write it out. You can do all those things we talk about. But I really, really think you need to have an accountability partner or 7 if you need them.
Sometimes it depends on how big the want is, how many people you're going to recruit as part of your team. They do become part of your team, don't they, Mark?
They do. I mean, that's what my cancer team was. I needed all of them because, again, it was not something that, I was equipped. I wasn't equipped to deal with this at all. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about this. And until it affected my life, I really didn't do much research on it either. I'm going, 1 in 3 people die of cancer. That's pretty much all I knew. So it was hard. And I had to be accountable to all people that I would eat correctly, I would sleep, I would stay away from stress, and they held me to, by if I didn't show up for my meditation, there was a knock, 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 knock on my door. I created and assembled the best team that I knew would stand there and would never let me off the hook.
Right. I bet that there's one type of person you didn't have in that group, and that was a yes person who would let you off the hook. And all you had to do was whine to them, right?
No. I don't even think I have yes people in my life. I'm pretty sure I don't.
I'm not sure I allow them, or I certainly don't ask them to be part of my team.
I don't. No, pretty sure I don't even. I'm really trying to think of that right now. I don't think I have any. Yeah. Maybe I should get some. No.
As your partner, I'm not going to let that
happen. No, that's not going to happen. Yeah. Kind of saw that one coming at me. Well, I guess we laugh and we're lighthearted about this, but if you're going to achieve anything, and it's going to be something that's difficult for you, we have 2 ways of dealing with this. Head on like a bull in a china shop like I am, or you can do it step by step. Take that first, we talk about this, a little baby step, take that little step, check and balance yourself, feel comfortable there, and then take the next step. And you know what? Be damned with anybody else. I could say, for instance, well, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in the next month. It would never happen for me. I would never be that committed to something like that. It's just the way it is. But let's say I blabbed that out and I said I was going to do that. If I said that and I got my accountability partners, everybody assembled here, And I would be the most devious person on earth. I would probably leave town for 30 days so they couldn't catch me. So, I need baby steps in this, right? I got to be realistic. I can't, so if you, like for Linda, if you're running a half marathon, for me, if I didn't run 4 steps, I'd be sitting there going, okay, October, how many months away is that? How much, how many miles do I have to run every day from here to there to get to there? I'd probably, maybe even if I was going to do it, I'd try for a week, and then if I wasn't at the objective, I would probably call it a day. And I think a lot of people do that. And you know what? Here we are at the bottom end of another half an hour, and we really need to discuss this more.
Yes, we do. And I will tell you on this, I will recruit you, Mark, if this is something that's big enough for me that I decide to do. I'm sitting here looking at this 14 weeks of preparation. I know we have much further than that to go before October, but I'm thinking, I even went as far as to what is it? How far is a half a marathon? It's 13.11 miles actually. I've already gone that far. But anyway, you're right. We are at the bottom of the half hour, and I think that we can talk about this a lot more. Mm-hmm. But realistically, Mark, the only way that we can actually grow, which is part of our purpose here on earth, is to grow and expand and experience new things. The only way that we can do that is to step outside of that comfort zone and to do things that we've never done before. Because if we continue to do the same things that we've always done, there's no growth in that. And so the only way that we can truly grow is to do something that we've never done before. So my I guess, words of wisdom tonight for everyone is to realize this, but then do yourself a favor, a huge favor. Do not try to accomplish something very large on your own. Get yourself a coach or a mentor or an accountability partner or 2 or 3. I'm sure that you have friends. You can hold them accountable for something while they hold you accountable for this. So it's kind of a win-win. Do yourself a favor. Never do this by yourself. Find yourself a team and then go for it. Mm-hmm. And hold yourself to a higher standard.
Yeah, excellent words. And I think that's sometimes, especially as entrepreneurs, I'll just jump into this for just 2 seconds here. We work alone so much of the time. And I know, being a trainer, how many people I know are struggling that don't raise their hand when I've got in a training and I say, hey, do you need some help with this? If you do, let me know. And I get crickets. And all I can say is like, wow, do you feel like, what is happening inside your head? You not ask the question because you don't want anybody to know that you don't know, or you don't want me to know that you don't know, and I already know, trust me. It's some days we have to be humble and say, I cannot do this on my own and I need some help. And that's from everything from getting a tutor in school, a tutor to get you a corporate job because you're coming from a different kind of workspace into being a CEO. All of those things, right, Linda? It's all about getting whatever mentor team that you need in order to achieve more than you can do on your own.
Exactly, Mark. And if you're truly committed to achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve, again, a new job, different position, a new business, a new relationship, be willing to accept the responsibility to make the commitment and then reach out and build your team and not only hold yourself accountable, but be accountable to your team as well.
You betcha. So here we are, my friends. We're at the bottom of this half an hour. And as usual, it just goes far too quickly as we just start to talk about things. But again, we'll be back here next week. And we'll continue this conversation because I think it's important. And I think that, you know, it's springtime, right? This is what we were talking about, Linda. Spring and shifting, getting off the pot, becoming all that we really want to be, and having the little mechanisms to be able to do that. So Linda, do we have anything that you had the final word on this of how are we going to push them into this week?
We are going to push them into this week by letting everyone know that you are a magnificent being. You can achieve anything that you truly put your mind to and commit yourself to. We are here to help you, and your friends are here to help you. So make that commitment, be accountable to yourself, and be accountable to your accountability buddies. So with
awesome.
that, I say good from Florida.
Good night, Linda, from Mark up here in beautiful, sunshiny, almost spring Canada. We'll see you all next week.